course, the Honorable Jim Howard. Jim, say hello to everybody.
Hello.
We have that was very passionate, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
We have
this is a passionate show here.
Yeah, and this is going to be a kind of a passionate topic. Because this is something that there's certain things I think that Americans will allow and will not allow, right? And coming after our faith or coming after our families, our hills, I believe most Americans,
would fight for.
Conservative Americans will that's a hill they'll die on. Right. So I don't know if they'll die on the pronoun hill, but they'll die on this hill. So we've moved into what I suspect is probably some pretty dangerous waters with what's going on. We're talking about the Virginia School Board controversy. And so what I wanted to do was bring the folks through kind of chronologically what's been going on. So initially, they were having a school board meeting, and the father of a girl that was sexually assaulted in a restroom, in a women's restroom by a boy in a skirt, he was there, and they said they had no history of sexual assaults within the Loudoun County School Board, but the father of the daughter that was sexually assaulted was there, and the boy was charged, and in fact transferred to a different school where he did the same thing. But the problem is they were standing. The school board was saying there's no, to fit the narrative, there is no cases of sexual assault in our what would you say?
County.
Yeah, well, in the bathroom that both boys and girls can use, right? But there was, and unfortunately for them, the father was there. Now, the father stood up and got upset, and then the cops came and kicked his butt and arrested him and all that stuff. And so he was, for a brief time, he was the face of domestic terrorist, right-wing, nationalist terrorism type. He was there. He was the poster child for that. That was before we found out that his daughter was sexually assaulted in Loudoun County school bathroom. Now, the school board said they knew nothing about it.
It gets better. Just keep going, though.
So feel free, by the way, to jump in. So as it turns out, they did know about it because they transferred the kid. The kid was charged. So it's not like it was a secret.
Not only did they transfer him, they transfer him from one school to another where he went in and did it again.
Right. 4 months later, he was charged again with the same crime or a similar crime.
Sexual battery at a school.
But the big story, I guess, is for us is that the school board tried to pretend it didn't happen, and then they tried to vilify the father of the daughter who was sexually assaulted, and that blew up in their face. If I'm not mistaken, the Daily Wire uncovered this whole thing. That's the Ben Shapiro channel. So they now have investigative reporters. They're adding to their repertoire of news services, and so they figured this whole thing out. So anyway, in the interim, go ahead.
Well, this was kind of one of them. One of the things that was going on. There was other things going on, but go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish, because we'll talk about the other things that were kind of like behind the scenes that were not brought up originally, and or. There's a whole bunch of things going on in here, and I want to bring up another one once you get finished. Go ahead.
So anyway, in the interim, the National School Board Association sent a letter to the Honorable Joseph Biden, who I'm going to put on the screen right. I got that letter on the screen right now, and saying that I'll kind of read some of it for you. America's public schools and its education leaders are under immediate threat. The National School Board Association has fully federal law enforcement and other assistance to deal with the growing number of threats of violence and acts of intimidation occurring across the nation. So that we have now an epidemic of violent parents
across the nation.
Yes, and so that even gets more interesting because a lot of the school boards were like, whoa. We're not part of this.
Yeah, they started pulling out.
And several states don't even, they cut off their membership with these people. So anyway, that letter gets sent out, and that leads to another letter, a memo.
A memo.
This one is by, and I'm going to put that on the screen, this one's by Merrick Garland. Is that his name?
Yep.
And there's his signature right on the letter there. Well,
the Attorney General.
This is interesting. This is October 4th. This is the Attorney General under the Biden administration, and he likens these people to domestic terrorists in his original letter. And then and it's very confusing, but then they've redacted that. So they've taken out domestic terrorism, but you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So now he's labeled parents as who disagree with the school board as domestic terrorists, and so all heck breaks loose. Right. So this is kind of what's going on in Virginia, and in the meantime, these two guys, McAuliffe, who's the Democrat, and Youngkin, who's the Republican, they're running for a seat that's being vacated by the guy with the blackface. I forget his name now.
It's not important.
Is it in the letter?
I don't know.
So anyway, they're kind of going after Ralph Northam.
Northam, yeah.
Okay, so they want his seat. That's the blackface guy that also said that if a baby survives an abortion, that they would keep it comfortable
until it died.
Until they decide to kill it. They
decided whether or not it would live or not.
Yeah. So this is kind of the environment. Now it's interesting, and kind of the spin we're looking at here is it's interesting that it's Virginia.
Right.
Virginia has a rich history of, and you were kind of not a native son of Virginia, but you lived in Virginia for a long
28
time.
years. Yeah. 28 years.
So Virginia was at the spearhead. They spearheaded the first American Revolution, and it's beginning to look like they're going to spearhead the second American Revolution. Because now you and I are on camera now, so they don't see the screen right now, but they are spearheading, it seems, the second American Revolution, which is kind of what we're talking about here. Our government, or half of our government at least, feels like parents should not have any say in how their children are educated, and that obviously has totalitarian implications. So. What did I skip? What didn't I cover in your work, in your research? What am I missing from that kind of quick update there?
Okay, well, a couple of things. When the thing happened at the school about the sexual assault case, other things started to come to the top, and one of the things that started coming to the top was that not McCullen. Can't even say his name. McAuliffe, yeah. I try to forget those. Anyway, McAuliffe was talking about that parents have no. He came out. Let me just read what was said. You believe school systems should tell children what to do. Youngkin said this to McAuliffe. I believe parents should be in charge of their kids' education. In response, McAuliffe said, I am not going to let parents come into the school and actually take books out and make their own decision. That's what sparked my interest, because he says, I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books and out and make their own decisions. I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. That's what caused it to explode.
Right, and that is where I and you and I and the left-wing government part ways in terms as far as educating our kids go.
So when he said, I don't think they should be taking actual books out, I was like, what books are we talking about? I need to go find this out. I need to go do a little digging. And so this is what I came up with, and I think that this is something that's very important. The school had put into classrooms or their libraries, first off, they had done, it says, while most of these books focus on introducing kids to different cultures, ethnicities, parents begin to discover that an alarming number of books were focused on sexual diversity. Even at a kindergarten level, they were promoting LGBT ideology through books such as My Princess Boy, designed to introduce 5- and 6-year-olds to the harmful idea that they can change their gender. Another book, Heather Has Two Mommies, denies the need for a father and ignores the loss a child might feel over having no relationship with his or her father. But it gets even more interesting. They talked about other books called Prince and Knight for 2nd grade, Beyond Magneta, Transgender Teen Speaks Out, Some Girls Blind, Weird Girls and What's His Name. They talked about statutory rape between a young boy and his boss, and the relationship between a girl and her teacher. The content in many of these books is graphic, and the language was so obscene when parents read passages aloud at a recent school board meeting. Board member who supported the books protested that the meeting wasn't an appropriate setting to hear such language. But yet,
in
the
school
classroom
is an appropriate setting.
The classroom, it's it's an appropriate setting.
So here's the point, and the point I see and make over and over and over again is people are selectively outraged. So we are outraged by the things. We're not outraged by violence. We're outraged really by violence we disagree with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were not outraged. The left was not outraged all summer long when they were burning down cities, but they're outraged by January 6th.
Yeah.
So now if you're truly worried about violence, you should be worried about all the violence, right? So they are misleading. They are, and I mean politicians in the media are misleading in the things that they seem to be outraged about. So John Gruden, the coach of the Raiders, has an email from 11 years ago,
something like that, yeah,
and where he referred to a guy having big lips, right, black dude having big lips, and I'm watching an ESPN guy crying. He was so moved by it, he was crying. Another black guy, but that's the kind of thing that they pour it on, but then when it suits them. They just look the other way for other things.
I'll give you a good example of this rape that happened in Loudoun County, and this was on the TV show called The Five, which is a Fox show. I'm going to promote them because I love it. Except for one, and I'm just going to say the names. I don't care. Greg Gutfeld was talking about how upset he was over this rape, and it wasn't just the rape that happened. A lot of people don't realize that the guy wore a dress so he could get into a girl's bathroom because they're transgender, trying to.
Do you know if this kid is really transgender? Or
He's not. He's not. He admitted to it later on in the case. He admitted to that he just wore the dress just to get into the bathroom. Okay. He knew that he could get into the bathroom if he was doing that. So they transfer him to another school instead of kicking him out of school altogether. See, this is where I have a problem about it. You don't want to kick this kid out because he allegedly did a rape? No. While this is going on, he should be suspended at home. You can do online classes.
Where's the Me Too movement and all this?
Yeah,
in other words,
where is it?
Why aren't we upset that a boy is sexually assaulting a girl?
One of the newspapers even attacked the girl.
They said that she had previously had consensual sex with this kid, which is true, but having consensual sex last weekend doesn't mean you're allowed to have you're allowed to force yourself to have sex the second time.
But the second
and that's
victim,
the kind of thing that they would rail about. This is where the hypocrisy bothers me.
The second victim did not have consensual sex with him before.
No, yeah.
So anyway, Greg Gutfeld was like losing his mind over this. And kind of made a broad statement that I don't really agree with, but he said, if you vote for McAuliffe, then you're voting for a rapist, And so it's a little over the top. And he said, look, I even admit that that's over the top. I'm just talking about this parent who got upset at the school board meeting should be allowed to get upset because they were covering it up. Yeah. They were not putting it out and letting people know about this.
Well, if we go back to the letters, the kind of the twisty mess we got ourselves into here, and I've been watching some of the Senate hearings, but kind of the mess we're in is the head of the Attorney General, who's a judge, by the way, Merrick Garland,
and was nominated for the Supreme Court. Let's make sure that we throw that in there too.
Thank God he didn't get on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Well, he relied on the letter from the School Board Association to craft this memo. In other words, he did zero homework on if there was any violence, and I'm sure there's been violence and threats of violence, but he relied on somebody with a political agenda to craft this letter. He did zero due diligence, I would say, to see if this is really if this is really a chronic problem. And by the way, are they really domestic terrorists? Even if it is a problem, does that equate to domestic terrorists? And then who do we call a domestic terrorist after that?
Well, I want to go back on that. They couldn't find threats.
They couldn't find violence?
Threats. They couldn't find violence. The case that they were talking about was because parents said statements like, we voted you in, we can vote you out. Or we know how to take care of you.
Well, that's that's an okay threat to me.
Yeah,
politically speaking.
That's politically,
Were they like, we know where you live, we know you got kids?
No. They could not find any of this. They could not find any of this.
Was there violence? Did they throw things?
Well, the violence was the parent that got upset. Yeah,
Did he get violent, or did he just get his butt kicked?
Well, he wouldn't leave and wouldn't stop talking, so they went to pull him out.
I probably wouldn't either.
Yeah. No, I know.
So, but do they have a solid case of parents plotting, right-wing extremists plotting against the school board over this stuff?
See, this is why they're upset about it. There was no investigation done. He
relied totally on the letter.
He relied totally on the letter.
So then you got to look at this guy, by the way, and just dismiss him. I don't care if he's the attorney general. He is a stuffed suit as far as I'm concerned, and he's a judge, by the way.
Well, is
he unfamiliar with
political? He's been tainted now. He went with, look, this isn't the first time that the school board has been involved in politics. The school board went out and gave a list of things that they wanted done before they would go back to schools involving the COVID virus. And the CDC wrote the exact same words that the school board had sent up and said, we have to have these requirements like plastic shields and all these other different things like that. And the CDC wrote the exact same words that they said, which were crazy. They showed no scientific proof behind some of the things that they listed. And so, it was just, it's nuts. It's crazy.
Well, I think here's the interesting thing. When I Googled this today, you hear my voice change? When I Googled this today, I'm hitting puberty. I'm looking forward to it. When I Googled this thing today, there is a tremendous amount of dysfunction in this Loudoun County School Board, or I'm guessing the school board is close to
This is all over the state now.
But there are more Democrats around the Washington area. As you get away from there, you get more into the conservative population, more family focused and biblically focused people. Because remember, they tried to put in the Second Amendment limitations, and Virginia was like, most of the counties were like, all right, we're now a Second Amendment county, so you can no longer everybody, and some of the sheriffs deputize everybody in the county.
Yeah. So why did we call this the Virginia Revolution? Because what you have to understand is Joe Biden won Virginia by 11 points. Joe Biden won Virginia by 11 points now. We're not going to get into whether or not that was 11 true points or what, it was legit or anything like that. But he won by 11 points. They are a blue state. Youngkin, when he started running, people said he didn't have a chance. There was no way, that he was so far behind in the polls that McAuliffe was just going to, clean house with him. Now all of a sudden there's a dead heat. I mean, it's neck and neck in this, and the reason behind it is parents getting upset because of what the schools are teaching. So what we're seeing now is that parents are tired of the school boards. And let me say one thing. Let me say a disclaimer here real quick.
Okay, I'm about to sink my teeth into that too, because there's something about that bothers me.
Yeah, let's make sure that we say something. There are a lot of great teachers out here. Yeah. I mean, my daughter who goes goes to a fantastic school where I might not agree with everything every teacher says. There's good teachers out here that want these kids to get a good education. But when we start to push issues like transgender and critical race theory as a part of educating these kids, Condoleezza Rice the other day on The View said it perfectly. I don't want a black kid to feel like he can't make it because of his color, and I don't want a white kid to be embarrassed because of who he is. Yeah. So, I mean, this is what they're teaching our kids. So what's going to happen?
So the pushback specifically in these cases is against the school board, but I think in general, ideologically, the pushback is against a totalitarian government.
Sure it is. Sure
so it is against the pushback is going to be and going to continue to be against a government that thinks we work for them rather than that they work for us. So
and that is what we're seeing in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and so it's, by the way, maybe too far gone. I mean, it's not like we're going to undo this mess because the people in power are never going to check the people in power. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, listen.
I think we're going to look more towards states. I think the states are going to have to protect their citizens from the federal government eventually.
Well, I agree with you. I agree. You and I have had this conversation a bunch, that where we talk about the revolution or the Civil War is going to be where states look at the federal government and say, nah, you're overstepping your boundaries here. We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It started, look, Chris Christie, when he was running for president, Colorado had said recreational marijuana is legal. You can go out and sell it, smoke it, all these different things like this. The state of Colorado said, forget what the federal government says. We're making marijuana legal so that you can smoke it. Chris Christie, when he was running for president, because he had been a prosecutor, said, oh, no. You're not going to go against the federal law, and Colorado, I'm going to shut you down.
And Chris Christie's a Republican, right?
Yeah, he's a Republican. But see, it happens on both sides.
Yeah.
We got
Well, it's the power, yeah.
Yeah, it's the power, just like what you said. But when you hear the mandates, the mask mandates, the COVID mandates, all these different things like this, you got a governor in our state that says, nah, we're not playing that game. And if you do this, we're going to come after you. And guess what? Florida today has the lowest cases of COVID across the country. Today, Florida has the lowest reported cases of COVID-19 across the country. So what's going on, folks? What's going on? We have a governor that stands up to the federal government and says, no. Like you said, Virginia was trying to pass a law that said, no, you can't have guns. And what happened? They run around the state and they find loopholes, which is what we do all the time anyway, but they find loopholes to give people weapons by saying, you're now a part of the police department. You're now part of the,
Yeah.
So
and it's just ridiculous. And I think I always
there is a revolution. There is a civil war going on right now.
Yeah, and
there is.
And it, I don't see it ending well. We've talked about that before. Let me go back to this Wall Street Journal opinion on the two letters, on the NSBA's letter, which was written to President Biden. And threats and acts of violence. A school board meeting might be domestic terrorism. The NSBA, the School Board Association, admits there was no justification for some of the language included in the letter. That's why it was redacted, which could have parents investigated under the Patriot Act for influence, for trying to influence what their children are taught. Here's the interesting: the retraction comes after a tremendous amount of blowback. First came parents at school board meetings with T-shirts saying parents are not domestic terrorists. Then 21 state school board associations distanced themselves from the letter. So they said, no, this isn't what we think, parents, right? So at least 21 states school boards were like, as a group, we don't agree with this type of language, this type of letter. And then Ohio, Missouri, and Pennsylvania cut ties with the association altogether. So that gives me hope. Now, I would love to have opened this up and say 50 states.
Well, we don't know yet. I mean, come on. When was this done? When was this done? This was done here recently.
October 26th, it was written.
Yeah, so, I mean.
So 21 of the 50 states said, listen, this is not what we think.
Yeah.
And 3 or 4 of them said, in fact, we don't want to be associated with your craziness anymore.
Right.
And pretty big ones, Ohio, Missouri, and Pennsylvania. By the way, Ohio and Pennsylvania are swing states, right?
Yeah.
Or kind of purple states.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Missouri's probably a conservative state.
I think it is. Yeah.
All right. So, it makes me feel better to see that they've gone too far. Now, here's what worries me: will we, as the American people, as parents, and I have school-age kids still, will we forget what we saw here? In other words, will we forget the thirst and move for power over our children once they have to go back under their rocks and back into their caves and caverns and kind of just talk about these things within their intellectual bubbles? And now we're almost at the halfway point, we as Christian parents, American Christian parents, have to realize that this is not an isolated incident.
No.
This began a long time ago when they convinced you and me, by the way, or our parents even, that that we have to go to school, we have to go to college. Well, we moved heaven and earth to get our kids to college, only to be indoctrinated into this ideology. So this thing didn't just start last week. It didn't just start with Obama.
No.
It didn't just start with Bush.
No.
This started when you and I were not even born yet, right? So now we have to look at this thing as all these little issues as different tentacles of the same beast.
Sure.
Christians have to look at this as a whole. We have to stop looking at this as summer riots or one school board out of control or anything like that. We have to realize this ideology is designed to break down the family unit. By the way, the Bible, I happen to have it queued up, but the Bible has a lot to say about the importance of family.
Well, I just, it is so refreshing right now to see parents upset.
Yeah.
Where we've gone for so many years of where the parents, and see, let's just break down exactly what you just said right there. So the government or the society pushed. Gosh, think about this. I'm gonna throw a conspiracy out here. You're really gonna like.
I love it.
You're gonna love this. Think about this just for 1 second. When I was going to school, when you were going to school, there was a big push on college. Why was there a big push on college? There was a huge push on college. Why? Because college professors would say, let the schools teach your kids, reading, writing, math, and then let us have them, and we're going to teach them about society, and we're going to corrupt them. Yeah. That was the major thing that colleges were talking about. Guess what they did? They not only corrupted a large majority of our students, because right now these parents are waking up. Yeah. They were probably the ones that were in those type of college courses that were talking about all these different social issues and things like that, and they kind of half believed them. Maybe not all the way believed them, but what did it do? What did it do? It put all of them in debt. All of them, school prices shut down.
Not just in debt to the government.
In debt to the government. Yeah. In debt to the government. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? In an election time, when a candidate comes up to you and says, hey, listen, you vote for me, I'll get rid of those I'll get rid of those loans that you have out here that are crippling you, that you're continuing to have to pay. Why wouldn't I vote for that guy? They're going to get rid of my, $50,000 loan or $100,000 loan. And then what we found out when we went to these schools and got ourselves in debt, when we came out of schools, there weren't the jobs. Yeah. And the jobs didn't pay for us. And the jobs didn't pay for what we had gotten involved in. So let me just continue here. These parents are starting to wake up and see what has been told to them all their life and all the lies that they've been hearing, and they're starting to catch on. Yeah. Because when they force it on their juvenile children, when they force transgender, look, you have a son. What if he came in one day and said, hey, because of what the school is teaching me, I really feel like I'm a female? Yeah. That's the school's indoctrination. It's not that he has these feelings. They're reading books and saying, hey, if you really like to play with dolls, then maybe you really want to be a girl. Well, I like to play with action figures. And they look at him and they go, no, those are dolls. Yeah. Those are dolls. So maybe you really are. I mean, this has been going on for a while, and maybe we're starting to wake up. And maybe this is where the revolution
right there, I think, is where the parents' roles really kick in. So my son, who goes to kind of a charter school, not necessarily a public school, and granted, we're in Florida, so you're probably a little less likely to see some of these things in the classroom for now. But I also have these conversations with my son. Mm-hmm. So I have conversations with my kids that are very real, and I want them to be able to think. Mm-hmm. I need them to have the skills to think, to know how to think and not just what to think. Here's the problem. Society has made us so busy as parents that we have to begin to rely on professionals, maybe by design, to fill in some of the gaps for us as parents, because both parents are working sometimes more than 40 hours a week each, right, to pursue that education, that American dream. They have, if this was not orchestrated for decades, it's worked out really favorable anyway. So it seems orchestrated to me. So we parents, you parents, we parents have to have the hard conversations with our kids as they are exposed to these things. I have a kind of a story of a buddy of mine that said he made the mistake of asking me for a ride, and then he challenged me on my faith. So now he's stuck in my car, and he's challenged me on my faith. And so his argument was, and he also at the time had a 10-year-old son. My son was 10 at the time. He's going to let his son decide whether or not he's a Christian or not, which is fine with me. Yeah, except that's a big.
You were going somewhere else.
That's a big decision,
right?
that's a big decision for a child to make. So you don't let a child decide what they're going to eat for dinner. You don't let them decide whether or not they're going to go to bed at 9 o'clock or whether or not they're going to do their homework or get up and go to school in the morning. There's a lot of decisions you don't let your child make, but you're going to let him make a decision on his own salvation. And here's the kicker, without the other half of the argument. So if the only argument he's getting for Christianity is a secular Christianity is evil argument, of course he's going to make that decision.
Right.
So are you, as a father, am I as a father exposing my children to sound Christian doctrine all along the way? And then will they be tooled to make an educated decision?
Well, okay. You just said it right there. Educated decision. Educated decision. Our parents know what's better. And you said it. You said it all the way through that story that you just told right there. Our parents should be involved what our kids are being taught, period.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting both sides of the fence when they get these type of – look, when they get LBGT stuff crammed down their throats, and that's what's going on right here. Let's be realistic about this. Look, every 14-year-old, every 13-year-old, once they start hitting puberty, is going to be interested in what the heck's going on with their body, okay? But when you do this just doctrination of it's okay for your feminine side to be out, then it's like I'm confused. And where are the parents when this is saying it? You have a look. Once again, another disclaimer. We have nothing. I have friends that are gay. I have nothing against that. I do not condone it, but I do not condemn the person. But it should be the parents' rights who decide what goes in and out of their kids' minds when it's with a different person. Here, one of these books was about a 14-year-old female, having a sexual relationship with a teacher.
Yeah.
What are you saying here?
And
what are you saying? And they're saying it's okay.
Well, they're grooming.
Yes,
they're grooming these kids to be open to this, not now, but 10 years from now, right? So we had a local here in Pasco County in Florida. We had a situation where the school board was not having LGBTQ classes, but a club after school, which is also fine with me, by the way. But when parents asked if their child, they were not telling the parents that the kid was in this club. In other words, for chess club and coding club, I have to fill out a form that it's okay for him to go to this club. But for the LGBTQ club, they didn't have to, because they felt like the parents could potentially be a threat to these children's sexuality of some sort, right? So that the parents were somehow dangerous if their child was truly gender fluid or confused, anything like that. So parents said, well, who's running this club? We can't tell you. What's the context of the club? We can't tell you. Does my kid go to the club? I can't tell you. So all of a sudden, the school board here locally thought that they were in position of authority over the parents of the children that were attending these clubs.
Right.
So now you've crossed the line with me. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So now, and this I think is where there's going to be a rude, potentially violent awakening, because you don't have free reign over our children.
Right.
Democratic Party, you don't. Right. And so parents aren't going to allow for that. We might allow for some things, conservative parents or Christian parents, but we're not going to allow for that.
Well, that's an interesting point. I'm going to come back on something you said. At the Loudoun County, they were told that if they wanted to see what was being taught, the critical race theory, if they wanted to see what was being taught as far as critical race theory, they had to sign a non-disclosure statement before they could show it to them. They didn't want them going out and telling people.
And then putting it on social media.
Putting it on social media. They didn't want to tell people.
So how that should alarm everybody.
Okay, but I'm going to go back on something. I'm going to help you out here just a little bit. The Catholic Church was caught having sexual relationships with young men. Okay?
Not the whole church, but priests. Covering it up.
And covering up.
Yeah.
So we had this unbelievable outrage to the point that in Canada, it's open season on Catholic churches. I mean, seriously, they've been burning them down.
That's not okay, but they should have exposed and it's a crime. And
it is a crime, and it was hidden, and they were transferred around so that parents wouldn't say anything, and all these different things like that. They threatened parents. They were going to kick them out of the Catholic Church. I mean, all the different things that they did. Guess what is going on right now? This is the same exact thing that was happening in the Catholic Church. Where is the outrage with this happening in our schools? This is exactly the same thing. There is this pushing sexual ideas on these children, 4th and 5th graders. You know, I don't remember what I was doing in the 4th and 5th grade, but I think I was, you know, playing with action figures, G.I. Joes, and wanting to play sports, you know. I mean, yes, girls were starting to become interesting to me, but not to the point to where I was wanting to wear dresses and go with them, you know. But wait. We got to bring this up. We're running into time here. We got to bring this up. So when you think it's only in Virginia, wake up, folks. Because I told Kevin about this, and Kevin was looking at me like, "Oh no, that's
got to be fake.
This is fake. This is fake."
Yeah, I got it on the screen now. This is, but first of all, it's Hazard, Kentucky.
Yeah, okay.
So I blame the Duke boys.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think the Duke boys would have been. I don't know.
So I got it on the screen. Now this is bizarre. And this is, I don't know how much of this we're going to be able to play. But I'll have to keep interrupting it because we'll get a copyright infringement. But
Hazard High School in Perry County after images taken during a homecoming event were posted online. Now, they include pictures of students in lingerie and bikinis dancing on teachers.
The school is receiving backlash on social media from parents who are calling the incident
All right. So
parents are so homophobic that they find this offensive.
Yeah.
So that's what that's kind of going to be the argument
it was
here.
part of homecoming week celebrations.
So it's homecoming
Tuesday
week
was
in
costume
Hazard.
day, and there was a man pageant in the gym. These are some of the images receiving the most criticism.
Right.
They appear to show.
That is, these are male students at this high school.
Yeah.
In Hazard, Kentucky, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, are these kids from the area?
They go to the school.
It's not like this is San Francisco.
No.
So but they are twerking. That kid right there is twerking. You see, I'm assuming other students and teachers enjoying the show. And they are lap dancing.
Scantily clad
they are
students
lap
giving
dancing
lap
some
dances
of the
to faculty and staff.
Here we go.
Others showed female students dressed in Hooters costumes, carrying mugs that looked like there was beer in them. And in others, students and staff appear to spank.
Right. This doesn't do justice. You need to go out to Twitter and pull this up because it shows all the pictures out here.
So this is. I thought you were kidding me. And then when I saw it, I'm like, Jim's been deceived because this has to be made up. So we Googled it before the show. This went on recently in this year in October. This was put up October 27, 2021. So this is just yesterday.
Yeah.
So this just recently happened.
Yeah.
In Hazard, of all places, Hazard, Kentucky.
Now, Hazard, Kentucky has a Democratic governor. But the rest of
you would almost have to.
The rest of the the Senate, the House, the congressmen, and all the are Republicans. I mean, they're run by a Republican House Congress.
I don't have this on the screen right now, but this dude is.
Wait, he's the Kentucky mayor.
Right.
He's Hazard's mayor.
He's the mayor of Hazard,
and
Kentucky,
is also
like Boss
the
Hogg.
principal of Hazard High School. So he I mean,
does he drive a big Eldorado convertible with the horns?
I have no idea. I don't know.
The young people don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But this is actually happening. This is a real thing.
This is happening.
So
this is happening.
Now, that to me, my kids would not be thrilled with that, right? My kids would be like, this is weird. I mean, they wouldn't be outraged. They wouldn't want to go home and kill themselves or anything. But they'd be like, how is this happening in school? What if they're spanking each other, lap dancing, Hooters girls, and this is all okay? But what if they went up there and evangelized?
Right.
What if one of them came with a pastor's, whatever the shirt with the collar is, and I'm supposed to know that, I guess.
Yeah, you should.
And so they opened the Bible and started evangelizing.
Right.
Would there be outrage? So here's my problem: it's the selectiveness of the outrage that bothers that bothers me. We're very careful what bothers us and what doesn't bother us.
I do not disagree with what you're saying. But it is worse than what we just showed right there. Because like I said, go out to Twitter. Pull it up on Twitter. It just says Hazard, Kentucky High School. And they posted the pictures on the high school. When you have male students dancing over the top of male teachers, they weren't dancing to the female teachers. They weren't doing like, what was that Matthew McConaughey show, that movie he did, where they were male strippers. It wasn't like that.
Oh,
Look,
Magic Mike.
Magic Mike. Look, when I was in school, we always had somebody that dressed up as a female, one of the masculine football guys who dressed up as a female and did some sort of skit to where he was standing over on the sideline being interviewed about loving football players and things like that. But he never got down to lingerie and did dances for the teachers.
Do we draw a line in if with publicly funded schools? Do we draw, if this is a private school, can they do these things?
I doubt this is a private school.
No, but if it's up, I'm pretty sure it's not. But if in public schools, can we promote one agenda without allowing the promotion of every agenda?
That's an excellent point. Why can't we have a rally to where the student comes out and preaches from the Word?
Yeah.
You know, why can't we have one? We can't. We can't even have praying on the field. We can't even have coaches praying on the field without getting, fired or suspended or something like that. I mean, we have case after case after case like that.
Yeah.
But yet you will allow these students to come in and do lap dances for principals.
It reminds me of that, the one with Michael Strahan, the old Regis Philbin show?
Yeah, exactly.
Where they brought a 12-year-old cross-dressing
and was
stripper.
Proud of his being so brave. And
the whole audience was clapping, almost all the audience. And one of my guys I really like, Michael Strahan, was laughing and clapping along to a minor boy dressed like a girl doing a striptease.
Right.
And this was...
He even made the statement, oh, God, what did he say? I encourage you, or... I'm proud of you, or...
it's brave. So the backstory of that, by the way, is the mother was the promoter of this, and the father was who had no legal rights to the kid, was upset about it.
Sure.
So that goes to a whole nother level of argument. But my problem is, and our problem has to be, we're offended in this country by everything but sin now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we as Christians have to be, and lovingly and gently and with respect, have to be able to draw a line and stand on it, and not just you can do this but you can't do that, because it's going to go too far. They're always going to be pushing the envelope. So, and I'll make an example of myself. This was pre my salvation. I was probably Christian already, because it was. Yeah, definitely a Christian already, but not
right.
really serious about it yet, kind of. So anyway, they were talking about, during the Obama administration, civil unions, right? Men should same-sex couple that's been together for 30 years inherit each other's properties and be covered by each other's insurance. And my answer was, even as a Christian, yes, it should be the case, right? These people have built a life together, regardless of their sin nature or their whatever it is. They should be able to, if one passes away, the other has inheritance rights and be able to be covered by insurance if one has better insurance than the other.
Right.
Just seemed to make sense to me. How quickly did it morph to same-sex marriage instead of civil unions? And then how quickly did it morph to going after the churches that don't do it? And then how many Christian churches acquiesced or folded under the pressure and said, we will do that.
Yep.
We will be part of this movement.
Yep.
So this is, for me as a Christian leader to some capacity, this is what I would warn folks about. This is the same tentacle it's a different tentacle of the same beast, and we need to be careful how much we compromise, and we should never, by the way, compromise on the Word of God. Speaking of the Word of God, here's some of the things that the Bible says. I did a quick search in openbible.info. By the way, I recommend this little free thing. I use it all the time. But I put in family, and what does the Bible say about family? These are rated, by the way, by thumbs up and thumbs down. So that's the order of them. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long, right? Exodus, one of the 10 Commandments. Train up your child, that's a famous one, and when he is old, he will not depart from that. Proverbs 22. Timothy, as anyone does not provide for his relatives, and I think this is where Christians really need to take a personal inventory. If anybody does not provide for his relatives, especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And if Joshua, I'll finish with Joshua 24:15, but there are a lot of references to the importance of family. And And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites who live in the land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And parents have to be able, Christian parents have to be able, willing, and able to make that commitment. They have to be able to, they have to know what they believe and why they believe it, and not be willing to negotiate on certain things. And the indoctrination of our children is one of those things.
Well, I was at a class where a person who worked hotlines, suicidal hotlines for the vets, but it encompassed anybody that called on the phone. And they said they're seeing a really scary increased suicide attempt and suicides with transgenders who went through the changes and realized that that isn't all it's cracked up to be. They were led astray. They were led down a rosy path. And then when they get into later in life, they realize that this isn't where they want to be.
Well, here's the problem. And by the way, the suicide rate is very high amongst people pre and post transitional surgery. It's something like 42%. But even after the transition, it's still above 40%. So it doesn't seem to be the solution that they were hoping for. And believe me, I don't want them hurting themselves. I don't want anybody hurting them.
We don't. But this is the lies that they get into.
But you can't pretend that there's not something wrong. So if somebody came to me and said, I'm anorexic, and I said, well, you look great with a few pounds on you, and actually obesity is very attractive and it should not be vilified. If I fed into the delusion that they were overweight, even though they're 105 pounds, I'm doing what feels good. I'm making them feel better about themselves. But am I really helping them? Am I helping to solve the problem, or am I really fueling the problem itself, right? So what we've done is begin to take folks that need help and need to sort through these emotions and psychological issues, and we're saying, don't worry about your condition. We think it's beautiful. And in fact, we're going to vilify anybody that disagrees with us, and we're going to then try to encourage more people to essentially struggle from the same disorder. They've changed it from a disorder to a dysmorphia, but they haven't changed what it is, right? They just changed the name of it a few years ago.
I am worried. I am hoping that this is the second revolution. I'm hoping that the parents get involved in this. Like you said, there's a lot of people that have pulled out of the NSBA. There are a lot of schools, a lot of districts, a lot of states that have said, no, we don't agree with this, and we're ready to leave. Some have left. I'm hoping that this is an awakening of where we have seen it go down this slippery slope and allowed it, not said, not voiced our opinions, not brought up our concerns, not showed up at school boards, not talked to, teachers who really don't want to see this. There's a lot of teachers that are afraid of losing their position because they don't agree with what is going on. And so we have not protected them.
I've had conversations, by the way, with school administrators in private that I'm friends with that would not come on my other podcast or let me use their name when I comment on the things they said, because it would cost them their job. But they disagree with the entirety of the agenda that the school board is promoting. When it came, that topic was the LGBTQ topic. Right. Now they like me, I hope they don't mean harm to these people. But we at the same time we've got to call it what it is, and we've got to protect the rights of the people that aren't struggling with this.
You were talking about your friend saying that he's going to let him decide. The reason why I have no problem with let him decide, let me just say this, because I like your analogy of talking about how you decide what they eat, you decide what they watch, you decide what they wear and different things like that. Here's the statement that I would add to this. If I'm living a godly life and I direct my child toward Christ, I take them to church, I do everything that I talk about God, I talk about Christ, I talk about how he runs my life, and they see it. They witness, your children see it in you, my daughters see it in me. They're going to make a choice one day. And I have no say-so in that choice. That is literally, that's why God gave us.
Between them and the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
That's why God gave us free will. Will I pray for their salvation? Of course I will. I want to see them forever. I don't want to ever lose them, you know. And that's one of the promising things to me about salvation. My daughter had a procedure today where they put her under and put a scope down her throat because she's having stomach issues. We don't know what it is yet, but they put her under, and like I said, did the procedure. Well, the whole time I was scared to death. I mean, this is my little one going underneath this procedure when I know they do, millions of these a day and nothing ever happens. But a friend of mine told me a story one time. His daughter needed to have a tooth extracted out of her mouth, and they gave her Novocaine, and they did not know this, but she was highly allergic to the Novocaine, and she died right there. And so whenever I talk to, like they're going to do this to my child, it concerns me. But the saving grace, I would be terribly upset if something would have happened. But the saving part of this is I know where she's going to go.
Right.
And so I know that I'll get to see her again in good times. Not just see her again, but get to see her in, paradise. Get to see her where there are no more tears. Get to see her where she's not running into these problems. So until we really, this is the things that we need to be talking to our children about and not letting the school board teaching them about all these other things behind the scenes. Let the school board teach them how to get out here in the world and make a living.
Right.
Let the school board teach them what they need to be doing to be able to face the world.
Let the school board teach them academics. And leave
exactly.
the sociology and the psychology out of it.
Yeah, let us be the social.
These children are not your science project, right? This is not a petri dish, and you get to develop these little bacteria any way you want.
Yeah,
these are people's family and children, and it's always driven me crazy with my grown kids, where a teacher would want to lay on me the right and wrongs of parenting.
Yeah.
And I flat told them, listen, I'll handle the right and wrong for my kids, and you handle the A, B's, and C's. That's what you're paid to do. So you're not paid to make me a better parent. Right. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of parents are screwed up now, mostly because we've been conditioned to be, because we have to rely on the so-called experts to have our kids' best interests in mind. And given that responsibility, it came with a certain amount of power for these people who are now, and you can see it in this story. And this is the bottom line. We'll wrap it up here in a minute, but the bottom line is we cannot trust these large government programs to have your children or your best interest in mind. So, church, if you're listening, you've got to be the center point of your child's development, not these psychologists and psychiatrists and sociologists and people running the government and the school board. They have something else in mind that isn't in the best interest of your Christian children. So we need to be super careful of that. The idea of my kids going to college now, and I happen to have 2 gifted kids coming up, but if it's not a science, right? If it's not mechanical engineering, cybersecurity, whatever my kids, I don't want them to go to college if it's going to be to get a liberal arts degree of any kind, right? If they're not getting a degree that's going to take them from school to the workplace and use the gifts God has given them, I'd rather they didn't go to college.
Right.
I mean, I don't want my kids to turn out like some of the kids I see spouting off on social media. I really don't. I mean, I don't dislike these people. In fact, I love them. They, too, are made in the image of God. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I have to embrace it.
Yep. Well, here's my closing points here, okay? We have 2 gubernatorial races going on right now. One is in New Jersey, and the other one is in Virginia. Now, both of these states are blue states at the moment. We have 27 Republican governors and 23 Democrat governors holding office, okay? These 2 states are very important. And from what I understand, and I don't know that much about the New Jersey one, but apparently they're just as upset. And where they're upset more than the school stuff is the inflation that's going on. Yeah. This is going to be the most expensive Thanksgiving that you'll ever have because of the cost of living all the things that have gone up. And so you have these 2 states that are running. New Jersey is really running on economics more than anything else. And, of course, the Democratic, person running for the seat who's been there has led New Jersey down this path that New Jersey's kind of tired of it. So this has become a important election. So we need to be praying for Virginia. We really would like to see it happen.
And anywhere where there is any of these races where the divide is pro-family or anti-family.
Yeah. Let me just kind of put this out here in perspective, okay? The whole country is hurting right now. Whether you like the Republicans or not, if you're an independent or not, the Republicans believe in free market, less tax, all these different things like this. And if you're hurting right now, it's because you have a Democrat that's going to the bills that they're trying to pass. So what we can pray for is we turn this to 29 Republicans instead of 27. Federal government's got to start listening. They've got to start seeing that the wave is turning on them. Where they thought that there was going to be a blue wave in this last election, they saw that there wasn't. If all of a sudden we have two major states, Virginia and New Jersey, turn red, maybe the federal government will start listening to us again.
And they will for now.
But it doesn't matter if it's just for now.
The problem is we can't forget the intent behind these agendas.
We cannot.
It's not the agenda itself that's dangerous.
I agree. I agree with you. But the thing of it is
being Christians.
Yeah. Well, but
or Americans.
Look, conservatives. Let's just talk about conservatives. What do we want to see? We want to see what's best for our family and our kids and our grandkids. Right now, what's happening is not best for any of us. You go. I mean, this is going to be what our kid we're leaving to our kids right now. This is just the things that scare me. When you're not able to go to. Somebody brought this up the other day. Wish I could remember the whole line. But when you're not going to be able to invite your family over for Thanksgiving dinner because it's too expensive, then we're doing COVID the right. We're doing it right for the COVID.
Yeah.
If you can't drive to your relative's house because the gas price is up too much, guess what? We're going to lower the COVID.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
Everything's pointing in the same direction.
It is.
It's better for the environment, too.
So we have two races that are going on that we need to be praying for. We know God is in control, but, and he doesn't really need our help. We're going to mess it up anyway. But the thing of it is I would like to see something better for my children and my grandchildren.
Amen.
And if we don't do something about this, critical race theory is going to cause, to me, more than anything else, critical race theory will cause a civil war. But it's not going to happen the way that we think it is. Somebody else said, we're going to have the sane people over here and the crazy people over here, and that's what's going to be the Civil War. It's not going to, because you're going to have sane, black and white, Hispanic. You just go down the list.
Yeah.
You're going to have sane over here, and you're going to have the crazies over here, of all different. So it's not going to be like one on race, where we would think about it.
I would not be opposed to let California and New York and let them have who they want, and let us have who we want, and we'll see whose system works better. I mean, we have the unique opportunity. This is a different topic, but a unique opportunity to have a 50-part experiment to see what combination of leftism and rightism works, what works best, how much free market can we have, and how much social programs can we have and still sustain. Mm-hmm. So I think we turn all the power back over to the states. I say we get rid of federal taxes and let the state collect income taxes and then pay up to the federal government for the common good, right?
Yeah.
And so then we have a federal government that is beholden to the state rather than the state being beholden to the federal government. And if one system fails, the whole system doesn't go down, right? If the federal government fails, all of America fails. But if California fails or Florida fails, the other 49 or 48 states can survive. Mm-hmm. So it makes entirely more sense to do it that way than to do it. That's the Federalist Papers, basically. But
right.
It makes entirely more sense to do that than to do what we're doing.
Right.
All right, guys. So that's our show. That was kind of a crazy one.
That was a crazy one.
We got people watching. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thank you for tuning in. If there's anything we can do for you, by the way, truechristiantalkinfo@gmail.com. Even if you just need prayer, just want to talk, you disagree or agree with the things we say, email us. That's fine. We'll read them. I respond to them.
Yeah, I know you do.
So
you do well.
So we're here for you guys. If you're, by the way, if you have a family member struggling with addiction or anything like that,
need
kind
prayer.
of my background, I have some resources I might be able to help with. And really, at the end of the day, if this podcast doesn't help, if it doesn't make a difference, I got better things to do, right? So let's try to not just do what feels good anymore, America. Let's do what does good. Let's make a difference. And we'll see you next week. Any idea for a topic next week, Jim?
Not at this moment, but it would be interesting to see. But
all right. Well, I'm sure something bizarre will happen during the week
God.
that'll give us something to talk about.
Yeah.
Until then, no one told they love you today. We love you.
Yeah.
God bless, and we'll see you soon.
We'll
Bye.
talk to you soon. Bye. Be blessed.